Hi guys, this is Easy with my Warden guide for Lord of the Rings Online. Now this is my favourite class in the game. They are great tanks and they are also a great damage class. Contrary to what it says on the roll here, it just says defense, but believe me, they are great damage as well. So you can play the Warden class on a number of different races. You can play the race of man, which you get a nice characteristic, plus 5% incoming healing, so that'll be good for tanks. Elf, you get extra agility. Hobbit, you get extra vitality. My favourite would be the High Elf. You can't see it from the characteristics here, but I will show you on the Lotro wiki in a second. So you can get plus 1% disease resistance and poison resistance. You get Piece of the Eldar, which gives you some extra morale. The other two give you minor stats, which aren't too detrimental for this class anyway. So I'll show you on the Lotro wiki now. So at level 35, by killing 50 Dour Hands, you get a plus 5% light type damage bonus. Now Warden's main damage type is light. With any gambits they'll start with a fist. So this you'll be missing out with any other race of this brilliant trait that you can get granted. You can also kill 250 orcs at level 42 for an extra 5% sword damage bonus, which is the main reason really why you shouldn't use a spear. Once you've got this trait, use a sword, because you'll be missing out on the extra damage otherwise. Okay, so let's go through the combat basics with the Warden. So you have 3 gambit preparation skills. You have Quick Thrust, Shield Bash, and Warden's Taunt. Now these 3 skills are your preparations, which will determine what the gambit default skill actually executes. So to put those words into action, you've got Spear, Shield, Fist, and this executes power attack. As soon as you've used that gambit, it will return back to normal. So as you can see, I've shown you the gambit builder skills at the bottom here over 1, 2, 3, and then the execution skill as 4. I personally don't use them that way. I like to spread them out over 1, 4, and 5 like a chord. As a musician, that makes that more memorable for me. It also stops you from using the wrong builder when you're in fast combat, and I have 3 as the execution skill then. A lot of people ask me what these skills do, or are daunted by them, or confused by them. So you've got Spear and Spear, Spear and Shield, Spear and Fist, etc. So what these do is actually help you build gambits quicker. You can use battle preparation to build gambits outside of combat, so just before you actually want to attack. So for example, if you wanted adroit maneuver, so Spear and Fist, and Shield and Spear, you can do this to build the gambit before you attack the enemy, like that. And the benefit of doing that, adroit maneuver gives you reduced attack duration, so you can attack the enemies faster and pull off your gambits quicker. The next thing I want to talk about is battle memory. So this is activated by using any 2 gambit builders in a row, for example Spear and Spear, Shield and Shield, or Fist and Fist. Now I'll show you how it works. So if I want to do Spear and Spear, which is Death Strike, you can see I got a bow and a sword each side of me, which will glow. Now what this means is the next gambit that you use gets stored in this skill here called Battle Memory. So if I want to just do Exaltation of Battle, you can see that skill is now stored in my Battle Memory. Now that means is that's saved there while I'm in combat. So as long as I am in the battle, I can use it at any point. So you can see that's just expired at the top, so I can use it again. You can also double up on battle memory, so you can do Death Strike, store a damage skill like Brink of the Victory, Defensive Strike, store another battle memory. I can store Surety of Death, use the one I've already stored. Use Surety of Death, it stores that, I can use it again. So if I want to do that really quick, it will do a lot of damage to the enemy. A Warden in the red line traits, also known as Recklessness, delivers massive damage through damage over time skills. They can contest with hunters through single target bleeds and contest with champions, taking on multiple enemies with light type damage over time and with area effect skills. Now I'll show you my red line build. I'm a level 85 Warden as I'm on the legendary servers, and that's the highest level cap at the moment. So I haven't got as much as the live servers, but the main thing I want to focus on is the red line here. So I start off with basic strikes. So this gives you a plus 25% Gambit builder damage. So these are these skills. If you use these skills, these will do extra damage. We also have vital points, so it does plus 20% bleed damage. So any bleed debuffs on your enemy will do extra damage. We have physical mastery, so this will help you build physical mastery points without using your gear. Very good to place your gear stats elsewhere then. We have Way of the Spear, so that's plus 10% spear gambit damage. So basically any gambit starting with a spear like Warden's Triumph, Dark Before Dawn, any of these ones here, that will do extra 10% damage. We have plus 20% light type damage. Any skills that start with a fist, for example Precise Blow, as you can see that will do light type damage over time. So that will contribute to that, as well as like Surety of Death, that type of gambit line. We have Aggravating Wounds, so that will do damage over time. It says dot, so that's damage over time. So that will increase your critical chance for any damage over time, and that will include the bleeds and the light type damage. The next one's Deep Wounds, so this will increase your critical damage. So we have extra critical chance and critical damage. You have Lasting Impression. So this will do 1 extra damage over time pulse. What that means is, for example, Surety of Death will do light type damage every 4 seconds. So an extra pulse will be an extra 4 seconds. So it'll be an extra hit, basically. Last two, we have Warden's Triumph. So Adroit Maneuver attack duration bonus. So if you want to have a look at Adroit Maneuver, you can see it's got minus 16% attack duration, which means you basically attack quicker. And finally we have Recklessness, which is this skill here. An all-out attack which sacrifices defense for an offense for a short amount of time. So you lose 10% block, parry and evade for an extra 50% melee damage and a massive amount of critical rated bonus for 20 seconds, and it's only got a cooldown of a minute and 30 seconds, so you want to use that as much as you can really, especially when you're fighting bosses. We have the set bonuses on the side here. So every 5 or 10 ranks is it, you will unlock a set bonus. So you've got Sharpened Spears, so spear gambit damage, so again that's any gambit that starts with a spear. You have 15% chance to trigger Gambit Builder bonuses. So Gambit Builders will apply bonuses sometimes, like Death Strike. You have Precision Training, so that will give you extra critical chance of critical damage. Taking Advantage after parrying or partially parrying. So that's sort of blocking your enemy's attack with your weapon. You heal a small amount of morale, and your Gambit Builders cost no power for 5 seconds. So that's very much taking advantage of a counter-attack. One after another, defeating an enemy causes you to restore 5% of your max morale, and you also get 10% spear gambit damage. You have Grandmaster Weapons Training, so you have extra melee damage, and the inherent bleed damage from spears happens more often. People say you should use a spear for that reason, but as I said in the intro, I prefer the extra 5% sword damage bonus, and you also get a extra parry bonus from inherent sword parry bonus modifier. So the good thing about that is obviously you get a small amount of morale when you parry something. You have Martial Fury, so gambits in the power attack gambit line and the precise Blow gambit line have 15% to apply a secondary damage over time to the targets, which stacks with the normal damage over time. So for example, Precise Blow here, that will basically duplicate that effect, and the same with any other in that line. So if you had a fist and a spear, or just had a fist, any skills in this line will duplicate if with a 15% chance. And the other one, which is Power Attack Gambit line, is basically anything that does a bleed. So Power Attack, Mighty Blow, and Unerring Strike will have a chance to apply the duplicate debuff to the enemy. Now then, let's go through the basic stats for the Warden. So we primarily focus on agility and vitality. Now what agility does is contribute to critical rating and physical mastery. Physical mastery is what outputs damage to the enemies. This is capped at 205%. I can hit that if I'm scrolled up. So those are the main two offensive stats. Vitality will give you morale and resistance rating. The most important thing when it comes to defense, whether you're a tank or whether you're a damage class, is mitigations. So physical, as a Warden, you'll want capped as 50%, and also you want to try and get 50% on tactical mitigation. I'm a bit below that on DPS line, but I do have the class item Carving as plus 7% light type damage bonus, so I'm sacrificing some defense for some extra damage here, as I do have an extra one here, which increases my tactical mitigation. And with scrolls I should hit near enough 50%. Wardens do have a skill called Conviction as well, which lasts for 1 minute and 10 seconds, and that will increase your mitigation as well. So you should be able to cap it regardless in red line if you have scrolls as well. You need to focus on your virtues as well. So virtues just stack up anything with tactical mitigation basically. I have critical rating on this one. If I'm doing tier 2, I'll swap out that critical rating. I'll sacrifice some offense, some extra tactical mitigation. Okay, so I'll just show you some of the common gambit lines the Warden uses. I mainly use 3 when it comes to bosses, but there are other situational ones you use as well. So the main ones you want to use for single target DPS is the Precise Blow line. So this does light type damage over time. That will be the first one that you use. Then the next in the same line is Piercing Strike. So they all basically do the same thing, just the next one is more powerful than the other. So you can see I have 3 stacks of light time damage over time there. Then you have the single target bleeds that we went through previously, so Power Attack, and then Mighty Blow, and Unerring Strike. Now I just want to show you as well, with the Power Attack line, what it says on Mighty Blow is it deals bonus damage if target has been recently struck with Power Attack. And Unerring Strike says deals bonus damage if target has been recently struck with Mighty Blow. So you do want to use them consecutively, one after another, because they do extra damage basically. So those are the single target damage skills that you use. Now if you have a lot of enemies surrounding you, then this is the most popular thing about the Wardens, is the AoE skills. So you got Warcry, Brink of Victory, so you got Fist Shield and then Fist Shield Fist, and then you have Surety of Death. And finally, you have Desolation. So that's 4 stacks of light type damage over time. You can stand back, you can see all the dots hitting the enemy there. It's the same with the Warcry line as well. If you use Brink of Victory after Warcry, then it will do more damage. If you use Surety of Death after Brink of Victory, it will do more damage. The other skills that you want to use when you're doing DPS, especially the bosses, is you want to use these debuffs on them. So these are ranged javelin skills. So you have Marked Target, which does -5% physical mitigation, and then -5% tactical mitigation with diminished target. These will last 35 seconds. So this will basically help the whole fellowship, not just you, deal extra damage to the enemy. You also have another one here called Shield Piercer, which will lower the enemy's block rating. and you have Hampering Javelin, which is useful if you want to kite, for minus 30% target run speed. Another situational skill you can use is the Dark Before Dawn, and what that will do is regenerate your power and then restore 2% of your maximum power every 4 seconds for 16 seconds. And you can just use that skill over and over until your power's replenished. You may find it's quicker to use potions, however, but it's definitely a useful skill to have. I do want to mention as well that the Warcry line, you don't have to use AoE, you can use on single target enemies as well. It is really useful to do that because it does a lot of damage. I mean, you could see all the light type damage bonuses the Warden has. It might even do more damage than the bleeds anyway, but what you want to do is just stack them both, one after another. And you just get quicker and quicker at doing it, that you can pull off all the lines on one enemy. That's basically what you want to do with the bosses. Now I just want to briefly talk about the legendary items. The imbued versions are at level 100, so this is only applicable to the legendary servers at the moment. But they will be updating the mechanics on legendary items eventually anyway, so I will cover this in another video possibly. Now the main 3 legacies that you want on your sword is the Shield Gambit buff duration, extra light type damage bonus, and the 10% Spear Gambit damage. Oh, and of course the extra surety of death damage over time. In terms of relics, I personally like the reduction in attack duration, because that helps you attack quicker and pull off your gambits quicker. The others are open for interpretation, really. Depends how you like to build your character. The same relics on the Javelin, however the legacies that you want is Spear to Shield Gambit damage, so that means anything with a spear and a shield, which includes Mighty Blow and the Bleed line. And then the other legacy that you want is Fist Gambit buff duration, so anything that starts with a fist, the buff will last longer. And then finally on the Javelin, the third one that you want is Shield Gambit line healing, so anything with a shield and spear will basically heal you, and you'll get additional heals from that legacy. So I'm just going to give you a demonstration. I'm not going to talk at you a lot on this part. I'm just going to demonstrate how I play the Warden in solo. This is using the red line. So I'm just going to pull out a bunch of enemies, get off my horse and fight them. So I'm going to start off with Recklessness. That will give me extra damage, give me a good start and advantage, give me a chance to get my buffs up as well. Now, as you can see, I'm just gaining loads of morale because I'm just cutting these enemies to pieces. I'm losing a lot, but I'm killing them quicker than they are me, basically. So that's how easy it is when you're soloing, really. I mean, it's obviously going to be harder at lower levels when you're not as... you haven't got your legendary items, you haven't got your gear yet, but that's basically all you need to do. You don't need to pull as many enemies as that. You can stick with 2 or 3, but I do advise you to pull more than 3, really, because you get more buffs from more enemies attacking you than you do if you were just attacking one. You may actually find it harder to attack less enemies as a Warden. Now I don't expect to win this battle, but just to demonstrate your single target DPS, using all my skills, I'm going to show you a single tip at the start here as well. So if you're in assailment stance, they do different gambits. I'm not going to cover all of them in this video. I think the yellow line and ranged spec is very situational, and you're not going to use it that often, but there are a couple of ones you can have a look at yourselves. The one I mainly use is Ranged Resounding Challenge. As you can see, it does 7,348 light type damage every 4 seconds for 32 seconds. So it's basically a ranged surety of death. So I'm going to open with that and then switch back to my in the fray stance. It'll just stack an extra debuff on this enemy.
And then mark target, diminish target, so those are the minus mitigations on the enemy, so I can do extra damage. I'm going to do the bleeds now. Precise blow. Precise blow, but just add a fist at the end, so you got piercing strike. And then last one in that line is Spear of Virtue. And then you can switch to Warcry. Brink of Victory. Surety of Death. You can go back to Brink of Victory. And then do Desolation, because Desolation will then do more damage. I'm losing a lot of damage here now due to this acid damage over time, so I'm going to use Conviction to increase my tactical mitigation, which means I'll take less damage from it. And then I'm going to use Restoration to heal myself up a little, and then I'll go back to my bleeds. Like I said, I don't expect to win this fight, but I just get to show you what all the skills can do. A Warden in the blue line traits, also known as Determination, focuses on defending himself as well as their allies. They are a medium armor rather than heavy armor class like Guardians, but they do have a plethora of defensive skills to balance that out. Now, as you can see in my blue line traits, I've actually went to unlock everything in the blue line. I didn't miss any out because they're all really useful. So I'm not going to run through all of them, I'm just going to run through a few notable ones. You can have a read of them yourself. There's only so much I can cover in a short video. So a Warden's Challenge, which is Defiant Challenge. This helps the Warden force up to 10 nearby enemies to attack the Warden, so great to steal threat off your allies. You can also see that below this that you get an extra 5% to physical and tactical mitigation during Defiant Challenge. Now this does stack over the cap. This was at 55% and this was at 50%, so this just does stack over the cap as well. And I will just run through a few of the set bonuses as well. So you have morale tap damage, so anything that drains morale from your enemy and gives them to you, this will basically increase that. You have shield mastery, so you don't actually have this in red line, but this is a really useful skill to use during your battle preparation. So it's just shield, spear and fist shield, so that improves your block rating and your evade rating. You have elegant finish, so this will help your Dance of War grant you a physical mitigation buff. Conviction will give you an extra 2% tactical mitigation. Surety of Death grants you extra block and parry rating. You get extra incoming healing from Celebration of Skill. Restoration now grants an instant heal. Desolation now has a chance to inflict fear upon foes. So fear is basically sending your enemies cowering away. It almost works like a stun, except they actually run away from you. You also have shield tactics, which you only get in blue line. This is an amazing skill as well. You can use this in battle preparation or while in combat, either is suggested. It's nice to have this on as much as you can really, because it has a stun immunity effect. So after the stun immunity expires, you can't gain that benefit for another 20 seconds. So you really want to use this every 30 seconds. It also grants you additional amount of tactical mitigation. So you have Close Call. Dodging an attack brings you a moment of relief, restoring 1% of your maximum morale. So that's just amazing. Build up all your evade rating skills like Warcry, Surety of Death, Dance of War, your Shield Mastery. You're just going to evade attacks all day long, and you're just going to get that extra healing from it. Exaltation of Battle, so that grants an extra 2 pulses, as discussed earlier. That just extra 2 hits adds on duration. Now the last one is all Gambit builders now perform a morale tap on the enemy. So every time you use one of these don't count. It has to be the basic Gambit builders. These will drain the enemy of morale and you will gain it. Another notable thing about blue line is minus 300 second never surrender cooldown. Now the good thing about this is if you're in red line, you should switch to blue line, then use this, because the cooldown will still stay at 5 minutes, then you can switch back to red line. But in blue line, I already have it on here. As soon as that you fall below that 15% morale and heal up, you can just use it again straight away. Now, gearing for a tank on a Warden, you don't need to worry about offense at all. You can ignore that. You want really high morale, so you can get that from vitality. You naturally get that from your class sets, which is great. Incoming healing, you want to have a lot of incoming healing. You want your critical defense to be high as well. So what that basically means is if an enemy hits you critically, it will do less critical damage. So it stops the enemies from one-shotting you, basically, especially with the bosses. Resistance you get from vitality as well, but you can get it from other areas of your armor. Resistance will help you avoid effects like bleeds, etc., anything tactical, and also tactical damage itself. Other important things are avoidance, so block, parry, and evade. You don't need to gear that much towards that for a Warden. I mean, you get a few things you get on your legendary items to contribute towards it, but you get a lot of them from the skills that you use. And finally, you want your mitigations to be capped. You don't want anything other than capped, especially as a tank. So you've got 55% you should have as a Warden on physical, and then you should have 50% on tactical. I'm slacking slightly there, but you know, with scrolls that's easily going to be capped, and I can go over that cap, like I said, with Defiant Challenge and some other skills I will show you shortly. So I'm going to show you some of the common tanking skills now that you will use. So for your self-healing, you'll want to use the Persevere line. So that's Shield Spear. Now this will give you a block rating and a partial block chance, as well as heal yourself initially and every 3 seconds for 21 seconds. You can stack that with the remaining gambits in the line, like Safeguard, Celebration of Skill, which will increase your incoming healing and block rating, and then Restoration. So you can see all those heals stacking up on me, and you can just rinse and repeat them if you wanted, if you're happy enough with the aggro. Now for the aggro, it's the same line as we discussed before. Warcry will give quite a lot of aggro on the enemy. This is a dummy, but on normal enemies you can see a red eye appear above them for very briefly, and that will mean that you've drawn aggro on them. You also have your forced attacks, so that Shield Piercer skill becomes Warning Shot. You can see there that there's a forced attack for 5 seconds. There's also one for Defiant Challenge, and that's for 5 seconds as well, but that is AoE, so that will affect multiple enemies. Another multiple enemy skill is Exaltation of Battle, which affects 10 enemies. So it drains them of morale, and you gain partial amount of that morale. So that's really useful. You could stack that with Fierce Resolve. It doesn't do as much aggro, but it stacks you healing for another 10 enemies for a smaller amount. As many stacks as you can on enemies will help, especially when you've got loads of them around you. Precise Blow will do quite a bit of single target aggro. If you're in a situation where you can't do AoE, you should just use Precise Blow and Warning Shot. And then for yourself, you'll stick with the Persevere line. Now, other defensive skills are the Impressive Flourish. Now, what this will do is stack over your capped mitigations. So you can watch here. And then the next in line after Impressive Flourish should be Maddening Strike, so just add a shield. And you can see that stack again. And then you got Dance of War, which you can use in your battle preparation as well. And you can see that stack again. And then finally you got Conviction. And now you got 60%. You can combine that with Defiant Challenge. And then you got 65% mitigations, which is amazing really. No other class can get that high. Another skill I want to mention is Resolution. So this will affect 10 enemies around you. So target is drained of 912 morale and you gain 995. So that's like almost 1,000 morale. If you bear in mind 10 enemies, that's 10,000 morale. And you could store that and then use it twice in a row, and that's 20,000 morale you've healed from enemies attacking you. So I think that's just an amazing skill, really. So here I'm going to show you the aggro capabilities, so the tanking aspect, where you want to take the aggression of the enemies instead of your allies. So this is you being a meat shield, basically. So you want to start off with your buffs, knowing that you're going to run into enemies. It's nice to open up with Defiant Challenge. This gets a forced attack, guarantees that the enemies will attack you in first instance. And then you want to back that up with something like Exaltation of Battle or something like Warcry. And like you said, you can see these 3 marks going above the enemies. Now you may notice this enemy coming in the background over there. My ally is probably going to pick that up. You'll see that they got aggro. So I'm just going to use an aggro skill now. I'll use Warning Shot, and you can see I've stole threat off my ally. Now, when you're doing harder groups, you don't need to self-heal as much as you would if you're on your own, because you're going to have a healer in your group. What you're going to want to do is use skills like Celebration of Skill, which increase your incoming healing. And you can just let the damage dealers do the rest. Another good thing about Warden is, as a tank, you can just let the allies do all the damage, and you can help them do that damage. So you can use stuff like Mark Target, Diminish Target. Another thing that you want to bear in mind in your combat settings, especially when you're tanking, you want to go in Combat Options, type in the search Vital, and it will be Show the Vitals of your selection's target. Now, this will work with your enemies. So Flambeau, my ally here, is targeting me, so you can see who's got the aggro basically when you're fighting. So you can see that my ally has aggro here. It shows up on each enemy if I can tab across them. Now I can just steal that threat, and as soon as I've done that, you can see the aggro switched at me. And as a tank, you can just switch between targets, make sure you got aggro, keep using your tab on your keyboard. When you're building your gambits, you can sometimes mess up. For example, I might have wanted Exaltation of Battle instead of Resolution here. So you have a skill called Recovery. This will reset your gambit panel completely. Or if you just messed up the one, you can just use Quick Recovery. That will just clear one. Then you can add whatever you need at the end. Another skill you have in Blue Line is for the Free Peoples, which you earn via your class traits here. I've got the skill here. So when you're using your gambit builders, you enter a state where once you use that, any gambit builder, they will actually apply buffs to your allies. So you can see that your allies are actually gaining physical mitigation and tactical mitigation. So that will increase your allies' defenses as well as yours. Now, it's all well and good that you can keep aggro against your enemies, but there's no point having all that aggro if you can't keep yourself alive. Otherwise, you're just going to die. So I'm going to demonstrate the defensive skills to you. So you want to start off, before you get into battle, some shield mastery, maybe Dance of War to increase your physical mitigation, Conviction then to increase your tactical mitigation. You can prepare shield tactics, and you just want to dive in there straight away. Defiant Challenge, that increases your physical mitigation again. You want to get rid of some of the ads. And then you want to start using some of your self-heals. So bear in mind as well, you're going to get bleeds, you're going to get diseases. You want to try and get those off you as much as you can. The self-heals, you want Safeguard, Persevere, Celebration of Skill, Restoration. So you can see that's one line complete already. You want to keep your mitigation stacked on you at all times. For the Free Peoples, my Gambit builders will give me some mitigations as well. Restoration is probably the best in the line. You want to keep that stacked on you. And you can see my Never Surrenders popped here, but I do have another one available, so I'm going to use that again, and I'll have the buff ready again to use. And in another 5 minutes, I'll have it ready to use again. So just stack the Persevere line again. Defiant Challenge. You can start stacking your mitigation buffs again. Steadfast will shake off your stuns and dazes. Get rid of those bleeds. Bleeds are sometimes the most lethal thing the enemies have. Pop a potion when you're stunned, you have nothing else to do. You could store some Gambit memory as well. So you could put Restoration in your battle memory. Save that for when your skill has expired. And you can see I'm comfortable with my morales now. I still haven't ever surrendered the pop, so I can just finish off this enemy with my offensive skills. And these offensive skills in blue line also generate aggro. And job done. Another tip for you as well, whether you're tanking or damaging enemies, you want to make sure you're actually facing the enemies that are attacking you. You don't want to be doing this, otherwise you're not gonna block and parry and evade. As you can see, I'm not blocking or parrying anything. If I switch back towards them, then you can see the blocks and parries getting back in effect there. So that's all we have time for today, I'm afraid. Thank you for watching my Warden guide. If this was helpful for you, then please subscribe. So that's all I have time for to discuss in this video. Maybe I'll do some extra Warden tips and some of the more complex stuff. I just wanted to cover the basics for people who haven't played the class before, don't really know what they're doing. If you found this video helpful, then please subscribe to my channel. This is the first video and guide that I've done. I haven't edited a video before in my life, and I hope to release some more content soon.